Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with an interesting story that happened on the road. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. She didn't like my tractor. My grandpa owns several vintage Allis-Chalmers tractors he's restored in his retirement and often shows them out at different things around the area which has a history of agriculture. One of these showcases is a yearly agricultural festival in town. It's not a small town, but it's not really big either, so there are many spots of traffic congestion at some times, but usually you can get any place in town within 15 minutes. Now, my grandpa lives in town, but near the southern end. He's close enough to the rodeo grounds that we can drive the tractors there in about 35 to 45 minutes instead of having to load them up on his little single trailer and unloading them so he can showcase all of them and then drive them in the parade. To do this, we have to drive on the main street for about half a mile and through one of the freeway exits and past the Walmart to get to the back road that's one lane each way through a little valley into the rodeo grounds. Now, it's a small enough town, and until you hit the valley road, there's 2 lanes. So if we're kind of half in the outside lane and half inside, there's plenty of room to pass us, and we could just drive in the lane, but Grandpa told us to hug the outside as much as possible on the way to not get people upset. In the valley, the speed limit is 45, but you can't pass, and it's inevitable to screw people over as you can't pass because of blind spots and curves. The valley's also a shortcut for a lot of people from the southern part of town to the other big road, and there's a rather rich neighborhood at the Valley Road intersection with the other road, and it's not uncommon for cars to really push it to nearly 60 on it. Now, under the freeway pass, a lady gets really upset that I exist with this tractor in the lane. She was driving behind me for some reason, and I kept waving her to pass me, but she didn't. At the light, she pulls to my side and rolls her window down, just screaming that she was going to call the police because I can't block traffic like this. I tried to explain over the roar of the tractor engine that I have a right to drive in the lane and I'm going as fast as I can. She keeps screaming, and I just shrug and look ahead to the merge to a single lane ahead, and a plan clicks. Now, I can't get the tractor any faster than maybe 15 miles an hour, but if I gun the sumbug full throttle in 3rd gear, I can hit that 15 pretty damn quick. So I open her up and release my handbrake the second the light flips, and she was too concerned with screaming at me to pay attention to the light, and she's slow to react, and by the time it registers for her, I'm already at the valley merge. There's no room to my side to let people pass, and suddenly I feel that I want to take in the beautiful fall scenery, so I slip it into second and just cruise. She starts laying on her horn, and I can hear her screeching behind me. I just shrug and mouth, "I'm full throttle." She honks for another 3 minutes straight and then gives up, riding right up on my tail as if it's going to matter. The valley on the tractor I was on usually can be done in 15 minutes. I hit the second lane so she could finally blaze past me about a half an hour after I was at the stoplight. The leaves were lovely. And our second story. No, ma'am, you can't have that book. In my teens and early 20s, I worked for a supermarket. Unfortunately, I had to deal with my fair share of Karens and Kevins. At my supermarket, we occasionally sold books. Not many, but sometimes. This time it was the 5th book from the Harry Potter series. People could pre-order it, and we'd put those books in a bag with the name and information on it. People could pre-order it until 4 weeks before release date. We had huge posters saying this, and me and a colleague even made banners covering those with the text, "Pre-order not possible anymore." We had separate displays for the not pre-ordered books. Oh, and they could only get the books at the service counter. We had 2 locked drawers with all the pre-orders. Only shift supervisors and managers had a key. I had the delight to work the opening shift of the day of release as the supervisor. Supermarket opened at 8. I was in the store by 7:30 to get the registers ready, give the other cashiers the rundown for this morning, and tell them to prepare for the absolute crap storm that was to come. Problem started at 7:30 when the manager tried to open the doors for me and some other cashiers. A lot of people had already gathered and they tried getting in. Manager doesn't take crap from anyone and managed to shout at the customers who were already there that they can't get their books without the registers being ready and people to man it. So we get everything ready. Manager and I get the displays with the non-pre-ordered books ready to go. 8 o'clock arrives, door opens, and the herd of customers swarm in. Chaos ensued around the displays and around my service counter, people yelling and screaming that they wanted their books, wanting to pay and basically push others aside. Holy crap. Manager came and I asked if he could find things like tickets with numbers so that we could deal with this in a somewhat orderly fashion. 3 hours later, the displays were empty and about half of the pre-orders were gone. 3 hours of working nonstop to get people their book fix. Then the problem started. The displays were empty and the only books in our possession were pre-orders. Time limit on those was 3 days. Book could be picked up on X, Y, and Z dates. Afterwards, they'd be sold. People who didn't pre-order and couldn't buy a book as we were out of stock started to throw hissy fits because no was apparently the wrong answer. It all came to a head when I had told another Karen number 452, no, and she tried to complain to my manager, who told her to cut the crap after explaining the situation to her again. This Karen then went to do her shopping. At the register, she kept throwing me dirty looks and mumbling something. Then a regular customer comes in with her son to pick up her pre-order. She gives me her name and address, so I turn around, unlock the drawer, grab the book before locking the drawer again. Unfortunately for me, Karen had heard the customer asking for the book and came to take a closer look. Then Karen went full Karen mode. Convo went like this. Karen was screeching the entire time. Why do you give her a book? You told me you were out of books. This is a pre-order. We're out of the ones that weren't pre-ordered. Liar that you are! I demand you give me that book now. I was here first. The manager told you the same thing. This book is pre-ordered by this woman. You can't have this book unless she decides to part with it. Surprise! Customer didn't do that. Karen continues to screech and curse while I complete the transaction. Then it happens. The moment I try to hand the book to the kid, Karen comes up to me in the workspace behind the service counter and gets way into my personal space. Karen had grabbed my shoulder. Kid was fast and had the book before Karen could grab it and booked it. Smart kid. But that's not all. Nope. Karen saw her prize in the hands of a kid running and started to try and open the locked drawers. When that didn't work, she proceeded to let me know she was very unhappy. She didn't touch me, but was screaming so loud, and she had me backed into a corner. In the meantime, the poor mother had called for help, and I had pressed the emergency button. She couldn't interfere physically as she had a neck brace on. Our emergency button made sure the cops were called and extra cameras were turned on to catch everything on video. Manager finally manages to wrestle Karen away from me. Cops came and she was taken away. Statements were taken and Karen was banned from the store. She did come back once, but when she was discovered by a colleague, she booked it. Fun part about it, colleague let out a scream, yelled at her, and she ran. Tried jumping over a chain with a sign at a closed register and fell flat in her face. Got up and ran out of the store right past me, holding her face. I couldn't help but say, "Have a nice weekend." I don't know what happened with Karen after that. Frankly, I don't care. I was 17 at the time and I never had to go to court. She got banned and I never had to deal with her again. If she knew the Wingardium Leviosa spell, she could have levitated it right out of the kid's hands. That sucks, dude. Karens of retail are another breed. And our last story. Have to clear out our vacation time? Good luck keeping the place open with no employees. I'm a social worker with a moderate-sized nonprofit compared to the city we're in. We serve individuals with disabilities in a variety, including on-site and in the community. About a year and a half ago, our exec director retired after 15-ish years. They were an awesome person, but due to age and some health problems, had kind of checked out of running the organization. The new director came from a much larger for-profit organization and seemed to feel that money is king and the only way to be respected is to be feared. She was a monster in every sense of the word. Now, being a nonprofit, our pay isn't fantastic and the benefits aren't stellar. But the one thing they were good at was the vacation rollover. We were allowed to keep 200 hours of rollover. And while it took some time to build up, those of us that had been there a while tried keeping our hours somewhere around there. This is our vacation and sick time put together. New director decides that our entire vacation policy is too generous and, one, cuts our accrual rate. I personally lost almost 2 full weeks a year. And the major kicker tells us we can only keep 80 hours of rollover. Again, I get it. COVID hit us hard. Everyone has to be expected to make some cuts somewhere. But see, the problem is she told everyone this the first week of October, and we had to be down to 80 by January 1st. Anything over 80 just goes away. We tried negotiating, we tried offering alternatives, we asked for exemptions by a few months. She would absolutely not hear it, and finally said the next person who asked about our PTO policy would be walked out of the building. So my coworkers and I came up with a plan. Enter the compliance. I'll admit this only worked because the rest of our administration team felt the director was horrible and also lost their PTO time too. We all put in for vacation at the same time, even those that really didn't need to because they were closer to 80 hours anyway. We literally had 85% of our staff off for weeks at a time. We worked it out amongst ourselves that we had just enough staff to ensure work was done to keep us compliant with the state, but anything above and beyond that ground to a halt. I also need to clarify that we're not an emergency service, so the clients we serve did not lose out on essential supports. Well, our board meeting comes around in December, and the new director has to try to explain why there was such a drastic drop in revenue over the last month and a half. Apparently, she didn't give a good enough answer, because the board started talking to the employees and senior management for the first time since the new director came on. Let me tell you, we did not hold back. After hearing the horror stories of some of the other stuff she was doing, the board promptly decided that having her in charge was, according to the all-staff email that got sent out, not going to lead us in the direction that would lead to a long-term success and stability for our organization, and kicked her butt to the curb. I'm happy to say they found a new director who's already gone above and beyond what we could have hoped for, and our staff, and most importantly our clients, are hopefully on the path to many years of success. The good old everything's going fine, time to change it all strategy that always works out so well with a new boss. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.